Good morning. So we're here today with Miss Pippa. She's representing the UK, London. She's also one of my clients, one of my most favorite clients. And she has a lot of things to say about travel and moving around the world. So first we want to say hello to Miss Pippa. Welcome her to the Young and Traveling podcast. She's very excited to be here. So just let me know some things about yourself, Miss Pippa.
Well, I think the first thing you should know about me is that I'm English. I was born and raised in England. I've lived here in the States for the last 13 plus years. I've traveled a lot. I was born and raised in England but lived in Holland for 7 years of my life. And when I met my husband, we were both working and we decided to take a year off to go traveling and ended up actually traveling for 3 whole years. We had one of our children, our first daughter, en route, and the first year of her life was in a backpack traveling around Africa and all kinds of crazy places. I have pictures of her getting her nappy changed at Machu Picchu in Peru. So we've done a lot of traveling. I traveled a lot when I was younger. I did a motorbike ride around Togo, which is right next up to Ghana in West Africa. I love traveling. I love especially meeting the people that you come across in different countries and different cultures. So yeah, I've done a lot of traveling, Ricardo, all over the place.
No, definitely. A lot of those places that you named are some places that I would love to go. I was actually wondering, where was your daughter born since you guys were on the road?
Well, I actually came back to the States to give birth to her.
Okay.
Right before she was born, we spent about 6 months in the Pacific, going all around the islands in the Pacific.
That's
and then we
nice.
came back to the States to have her, and we had to wait 3 months before we could travel again because she needed inoculations. And the first place that we traveled to with her was South Africa, and then we moved north. And we have some brilliant pictures of her in Ethiopia where we met tribes that had never seen white people, let alone white babies, and they didn't understand what this little thing was that was exactly the same as any baby that they'd ever seen, but they thought it was this strange being, and they would take her and spit on her to give her good fortune, and it was crazy to see how people reacted to us when we had this baby with us.
I actually seen that in the Ace Ventura movie. I don't know if you remember Ace Ventura. No. Where he went to Africa and like they had like this white bat and like when they met him they spit on his face. So I thought that was a movie thing. I didn't know that was actually real.
It's a real thing. We were with a guide who obviously we needed because we didn't speak the local language, and he there was a village elder. She was a very elderly lady. When she took my daughter Joy out of my hands and started spitting on her, I was horrified at first. I mean, any mom, right, with a little kind of 6-month-old baby, you're like, what are you doing? And the guy said, no, this is a really good thing. They're bestowing good fortune and you know, all good things on her. So yeah, it was a funny. It's one of many adventures and experiences that we had.
So would it be fair to say you've been to every continent except for Antarctica?
I don't think that's, well, actually, let's think about that. No, because I haven't been to Australia yet.
Okay.
We figured we'd leave out the countries that we could go to when we were old. You know, we trekked through the Borneo jungles and went, you know, in search of headhunters and people that had eaten, you know, humans, and those were not trips that we could imagine doing when we were older or when we had children. So we left out the countries like Australia. But we went to New Zealand. We did New Zealand. That was fun.
In Australia, they hunt people?
No. We were in Borneo.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry.
We were trekking through the jungles in Borneo.
Okay.
Looking for headhunters. So there were these tribes in the jungles in Borneo where if you trespass on their land, they will kill you and they will cut your head off and put it on a spike and put it outside their village as a warning to others. So we were interested in meeting people that had actually, and then they would eat the flesh of the person. So we were interested in meeting people that had kind of, you know, followed these age-old, I mean, centuries-old traditions, and that, you know, are still doing them today in remote corners of the world.
Yeah, I might want to have my son spit on, but I'm not sure about the head hunting part.
Right?
Yeah, I'm kind of confused.
I know.
I'm kind of concerned. Like once I heard the head coming off, I was like, oh man. But I was wondering, in the Pacific Ocean, where did you go to? Like Indonesia or?
So yeah,
Philippines?
yes, we were in Indonesia, but we also traveled around all of the Pacific islands. So Micronesia. We didn't actually go. We went to Hawaii, but all of those islands that span the whole of the Pacific, we zigzagged across all of them.
So like Guam and like
Yes, Guam.
I can't name them all. There's so many of them.
Right? Exactly. You're testing my geography now. But yes, just incredible islands. Which here's the crazy thing about the Pacific. You think these islands are in the middle of an ocean, right? And so wouldn't they all be the same? Like, wouldn't it in your mind, don't you think, well, they're all in the same ocean, so they should all be the same? Well, they're not. They're all different geographically, culturally. They are all so incredibly different. And even somewhere like Hawaii, which is a chain of islands that have been formed by volcanoes over, millions of years, you'd think again, well, they're right next door to one another, so wouldn't they all be the same? But they're not. They're so different. The topography, one has a massive canyon, two of them have volcanoes, one of which is still live on the Big Island, but they're just so incredibly different, and the culture of them is different too. So that's a crazy thing to explore, is how all these islands that you think must be so similar because they're all located in the same place are just not.
So, what would be one of your biggest challenges coming from the UK, becoming an American, like a part of our American culture? Like, what would you say is one of your biggest challenges or hurdles, like adjusting?
Well, language is one. I tell my children that just because they speak English doesn't mean that they know what the difference between English and American is. I think the biggest challenge for me is I grew up on an island in a country that had a very, very strong culture that was formed over, hundreds of years. I mean, we go from like Vikings, through all of our monarchy to today's queen, and we have an incredible history. And if you go to London or anywhere in England, you will see castles, you'll see cobbled streets, you will see history on every street corner. And it was hard for me to come here and not have my whole life surrounded by these historical, monuments really, or memories of the past. And when I say monuments, I don't even just mean buildings. I mean, look at things like Stonehenge. I mean, those are just a collection of stones. But you're always reminded of history and the people that have gone before you. And I think one of the hardest things coming here was not having that, but also recognizing that the people within the US are much more focused inward on their country and what's happening inside the United States. Whereas when you grow up on an island, you're always looking out, and you're always looking at what's happening across the sea in other countries. And, we used to be part of Europe until the 1st of January. We were part of a European sort of collection of countries. We've torn away from that now. But we're always looking kind of, beyond our, borders. We used to have an empire in the old days, the British, and we still have strong ties across the world. But we were never just sitting on our island doing our thing. We were always looking to see what was out, beyond the seas. And I love that about our country and our culture. And I don't think it's quite the same here. So I think that's probably been my biggest challenge.
So did you actually meet your husband in Florida, or what part of America?
No, my husband was born in California.
Okay.
I met him in London. We were both working for the same company in London. We decided to get married and go traveling. That's when we did our 3-year voyage where we had our daughter. And when we came back, we actually lived in London again. And then he got transferred back to the US. And I've lived here ever since. And we've moved all over the US. So we've lived in Hawaii, we've lived in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, we've lived in Vermont, we've lived in Greenwich, Connecticut, we've lived here in Florida. We've lived in many, many different places across the US.
So now here's my big question of the day.
Okay.
Where's a place that you have never been that you would love to go to? A place that you've never visited, or something that you would like to do, maybe like an excursion?
Well, I told you we haven't been to Australia. That's on my list. I would love to go to Australia one day. And we have a map in our house. It's a world map, and it's covered in pins, and they're color-coded. And all the countries that my husband and I have visited together, we have a green pin in. ones that he's visited but I haven't, or I visited that he haven't. They're different colors. And then we have a whole bunch that are red, and those are the countries that we have yet to go to. And there is more red on the map than there is green, even though we have traveled to so many countries. But I think other than Australia, the one that I would put at the top of my list is probably Iceland. I'd love to go to Iceland. I'd love to see I don't know what's left of glaciers. I know we don't have many left, but I'd love to see that. And I'd love to see...
You said glaciers?
Glaciers.
Oh, glaciers?
Yes. Well, there you go. You see, we're not speaking the same language. You think we are, but we're not.
I had no idea what you were saying until I thought about it. I was like, is that a glacier?
Yes, it is. So I'd love to see those. And the Northern Lights. Have you heard about the
I've heard about those.
Where those crazy...
like a light show?
Yes, it's a beautiful phenomenon.
And they have like those spas, like the heated spas. They're like outside. They look really, really nice.
Well, those spas are actually
natural.
Natural.
Yeah.
So they're actually thermal water from the volcanic activity underground. So yeah, I'd love to go there and I'd love to see that. But I love, you know what? I'd be happy traveling anywhere. And in these crazy days of COVID, travel's become such a thing of the past almost, that I think being able to get in a car and go anywhere at this point is a gift. I'd be happy to go do a trip to the Everglades, honestly. I've never been to the Everglades. How can you live in Florida and not go to the Everglades?
I've never been to Orlando or the Everglades.
You see? There are things right on our doorstep. Here we are, we travel the world and we don't actually go see the things that are on our doorstep. We need to take that as a lesson, right? That things are right here.
I lived in New York for 30 years. I never been to the Statue of Liberty. That's probably the only thing I've never been to in New York. So yeah.
Have you never taken the Staten Island and like gone party, like at least seen it from the water?
No.
Yeah. Shame on you, Ricardo.
It's really, really cold in New York, and in the summertime, I was probably on vacation.
Well, I get that. I mean, anyway, yeah. So you see, there are things on our doorstep. That's the challenge. Everyone should be thinking about what's right here that I haven't seen that I should go visit.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Miss Pippa, for your time.
You're so welcome.
I appreciate everything you've done for helping me out with the Young and Traveling podcast. Have a safe travel back to the UK when you do travel back this weekend. And I look forward to seeing you on another podcast, maybe in somewhere else in the world.
All right. Thanks, Ricardo.
Thank you so much, Miss Pippa.